Hi again, everyone. This is Bill. I'm your host at Fox Family Farm. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about another one of my stories from Big Lake. Great adventures as a kid in Eastern Maine, having lots of fun on the lake with my family and friends there. So stay tuned as I talk to some kids in the field about that at farm camp this week. And it's been a lot of fun and great memories from Big Lake. Eastern Maine every summer. Like I said, I grew up in Massachusetts, so it was so much fun for me to go to Big Lake in the summer times. And our camp was about as far away from the water as like the fence posts over there, so it was pretty close, and it looked down onto the lake. Over to the right of us, I had a friend who had a camp there. His name is Lyndon Smith, and I only saw him those 2 or 3 weeks every summer at Big Lake. But Lyndon's family had this boat called a Grand Lake Streamer. Has anybody ever heard of that?
Yeah.
I bet you haven't. It's a wooden boat, so it has ribs in it, and it's a canoe with a square end on it where you put a motor, and it was probably 20 feet long and about this wide maybe. And Lyndon and I, when I was more like a teenager or a young preteen, we would go out and fish. Now Big Lake has a long shore, and sometimes when I was little, my parents and I would go down, way down the lake, and on this island there was a huge blueberry bush. I mean, it was immense.
Did you pick it?
Oh yeah, we did. We picked and we ate blueberries, and sometimes we might make a pie out of it, but it was a really big bush, like 8 feet tall and maybe 8 feet wide, and it was just full of blueberries every August when we were there, and I loved going down there. Well, on the way down to that island, there's a really big island in the middle of the lake called White's Island, and it's probably a mile long in the middle of the lake. So it's such a big lake. It's a big island there. On the far end of White's Island, there was a camp. I always wondered how it would be to take a boat out to your camp. That'd be kind of neat. You never could drive there, right? There's no roads to it, so you'd have to take a boat from somewhere.
Yeah, one of my friends has a camp like in the middle of the lake.
Yeah, so it's a different kind of situation, right? We could drive to ours. It was a dirt road, and it had mud puddles, and of course, whenever it rained, you'd have to slow really down far. You'd make a huge splash, and
my dad, like 2 weeks it rained.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he got into a car crash, like he slid to the side and
Hydroplane.
Well, these were puddles as big as this group of people around me right here.
There's probably some
Big puddles that were like that deep,
It was in
and we would
Vermont.
slow down and drive through them, and it took 20 minutes to get from the paved road, even a half hour sometimes, all the way out to our camp on the lake.
'Cause it was.
So
did that go
Lyndon's
slow?
camp was just around to the right on the other side of the point, and I could walk over there, and there'd be these little plants that had little orange berries that you could eat. I don't know what they were called, but they were okay. They weren't like great, but they always grew in that spot there, if I remember right. And so Lyndon and I like to fish. Now on the other side of White's Island, if you lined it up just right in the tree, like you could line up 2 trees with each other on the island, and you were out far enough from the shore, there's a deep hole, and so we would go there to fish and try to drop a line called a jig. Anybody ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
It's a straight line down that you pull up and down, and we were fishing for salmon, and one time I caught a salmon that was about that long, and it was silver, and it was so cold because it came from way down low, about 100 feet deep. That was really cool. Now we were out there fishing one day, and it was the wind came up, and you're a couple of miles from our camp and to be at that spot. It's a ways out. There's a lot of water between there and the shore. Now the way that we would go back was between White's Island and our side of the shore. Now under the water there's a sandbar all the way. You ever seen this before?
Oh, yes.
Like it's only about that far below the surface of the water. So normally you could ride a boat right over that. Well, the wind was blowing so hard on this specific day that the troughs of the wave, you could see the ground. Okay, and we were going to have to cross that. So you had to do that. What if we hit the bottom when the wave hit it? We'd be swamped, right? And we wouldn't want to get swamped in big waves on a lake. So we were trying to figure out how we were going to go across this bar, because you know how waves go like this, right?
How did all the waves
Every
get
time
there?
they went by, they'd show the bar, like the ground there. They were that big. They were 3-foot waves.
What? In a lake?
Yeah, in a lake. So Lyndon, it was pretty good at driving that boat, and he decided we were going to go across it, and we timed it to ride a wave, the top of a wave, across the sandbar. and we went across it. And I've never forgotten that. That was a really cool thing. We had a lot of fun in that boat. We went all over that lake fishing and hanging out together. But it was a Grand Lake Stream boat, and almost nobody has those anymore. A fully wooden boat. It was green, and it had those ribs in it. Looked like the kind of the Indians used to use almost. It was really neat. Yeah.
A motorized canoe.
Well, lots of fun with that. But that was one of the fun things that we did there, and
Aww.
we didn't crash. We didn't crash. One day, you know, with all the storms that we had at Big Lake, we looked out in front of our camp and our motorboat was gone. We had it tied up to a buoy about 20 feet from the shore, and it was gone. And we were like, what happened? Where did our boat go? We have this pretty cool boat with a motor on it we drive around the lake on. And so we were looking around, and we walked around the shore a little ways, and all the way around in this little spot around the edge of the lake, there it was. It had floated over there in the waves, and it didn't get broken or anything. It was all.
Just when you were a kid?
Yeah, it was perfectly fine. I mean, what are the chances of that, right? I mean, your boat gets loose in a storm and shows up around the corner. Yeah.
I once went canoeing and kayaking. What you usually do if you're doing that, you have to face the waves, like
Yeah.
face them, or
Right,
tip
or
over,
you can
tip
go
over.
side, tip right over. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you know that.
So we went there, and then there's an island right in the middle.
Uh-huh.
It was abandoned, so like I think someone lived there or was camping. So there's a whole, there's like a new cup there,
Ah.
a trailer,
Ah.
and then they had like an old radio. It was
Well, lakes and camping are made for kids, right? Are there any kids here? You should all be doing that, right?
yeah, I love doing
You ought to get out and tell your parents, hey, I want to go to a lake. I want to go camping. I want to get out and
Every summer we go
See
camping
Maine.
out on an island for
Yeah.
a
it. We're
week.
trying to go this year.
you all should do it.
Last year we capsized.
We don't.
Well, remember some stories then, right?
My mom never goes camping with us. My mom never goes.
I remember all these things because they were stories that I have. So try to remember that, okay? Well, thank you guys. That's the story of the sandbar.
Oh,
Okay.
that's it? That was kind of quick.
Well, I didn't tell you. Well, that's the story of the sandbar on Big Lake between White's Island and the main shore. Hope you enjoyed that. The kids had a good time listening, and appreciate you all tuning in, and thank you for subscribing to Fox Family Farm.